what is the difference between XLR and DMX? The debate goes on. A lot of people have different views. So we're going to get into all the nitty gritty bits. And also, can you only get away with using XLR just for DMX purposes? Let's find out. Okay, so before we get into the video, don't forget to subscribe and also turn notifications on so you guys know when I upload next. Okay, so before we dive into the differences, it is important that you know a bit more about DMX. So the DMX standard was originally designed with 5 pins So the DMX standard was originally designed with 5 pins in mind, and this was done for two reasons. Number one is very basic. It's basically to distinguish itself from its audio XLR counterpart. Obviously, DMX would have had 5 pin and XLR audio would have had 3 pin. And two, to leave the other 2 pins open for future expansion. So how many different types of XLR plugs are there? Well, there are currently 2 types of XLR plugs. The 3 pin that we know of, that's going to be here, and the 5 pin that a lot of you might know of or might not know of, that's right around here. So as you can see, 3 pin and 5 pin. So what does XLR really stand for? XLR stands for External Line Return. And what does DMX or DMX 512 or 512 as it's also known? DMX stands for Digital Multiplex Signal, or DMX 512 because it's used to control up to 512 channels. Now, and to better understand the word channel, so for example, if you have a RGB light, red, green and blue, that lighting fixture would basically be using 3 channels, and each channel has 255 steps, which can include controlling different parts of that lighting fixture, such as tilt, pan, color, light intensity, and other standard fixtures of that lighting fixture. So a lot of people may ask, why is there 5 pin and 3 pin XLR cables? Well, this is very simple, because back in the 1980s and 1990s, lighting companies then realized that DMX only used 3 pins out of its original 5 to transfer data. So a lot of people may ask, why is there 5 pin and 3 pin XLR used for DMX? Well, this is very simple, because in the 1980s and 1990s, lighting companies realized that DMX only used 3 out of the 5 original pins for lighting control. Now, you may see a lot of lights that only have 3 pin DMX, but there are also a lot of companies out there who also still use the original 5 pin and 3 pin alongside on the same fixture. An example of these would be lights by Clay Packy or Rowe. I'll try and maybe leave some pictures up here for you guys so you can also see that as well. So here is a little bit of an interesting fact for all those that didn't know. There is a lot of 5 pin DMX cables on the market that originally still use the 5 pin connectors, but only 3 of the original 5 are actually connected. So what are the differences between XLR and DMX? Well, they both use the same amount of pins, they all come in different types of colors, sizes, and they all kind of like look alike. But to be honest, they couldn't be any more completely different from each other. And here is why. A XLR cable is designed to carry an analog signal. An example of that is just up here. So on a typical audio cable, it has an impedance of around 45 ohms, and an analog signal can kill a digital feed. Keep that in mind, an analog signal can kill a digital feed. So in the analog world, audio is relatively a low frequency and behaves almost like DC. And obviously, the higher the frequency gets, the more RF the signal acts. For those that don't know, RF stands for radio frequency. So a quarter wavelength at 1,000 megahertz is roughly 75,000 meters, which is roughly 47 miles or around 75 kilometers. For those who do kilometers and miles, around 47 miles or 75 kilometers. So the effect of an impedance reflection on a 100-foot cable would be minimal on a 100-foot audio cable. So unlike XLR cables, DMX is designed and built around digital signals, and these signals are traveling at a very high bandwidth. This bandwidth is obviously above our current hearing range. And unlike XLR, DMX has an impedance of around 120 ohms. So how is data sent down a DMX cable? So data is sent down a DMX cable via pulses of electricity Hence the fact why if you cut open a audio cable and a DMX cable has more insulation on the inside of the wire compared to the audio cable, and this extra insulation stops any interference to the electrical pulses being sent down the DMX cable. So for example, whenever you're using a DMX controller, for example, a DMX controller is always going to be hooked up to your lights, and they're always going to be daisy chained, either using DMX cable or wireless. So how it works is electrical frequencies and data pass down from the controller into the DMX cables or over a wireless stream into the wireless lights or down into the fixtures that are hooked up via DMX. And every time you press a button or flick a switch, you are controlling an attribute within the lights and the DMX 512 universe. You're going to be controlling each and every single of those via pulses of data down into the cable or wire via the wireless network. So this is why you can use any kind of DMX controller or console with any branded light, because at the end of the day, the DMX controller or console you're going to be using is only going to be able to control what the attributes of the actual light could do. So if the light can't tilt and pan, for let's say now if it's a park can, and the park can doesn't have a tilt or pan function, then that DMX controller is not going to obviously make the light tilt and pan, because there is no stepper motors to allow that light to move. So the DMX controller can only control parts and attributes that the light is actually capable of doing. So you can use any generic or branded, it doesn't matter. For example, if you use a ADJ light, you can use a Chauvet DMX controller. So there is a lot of people out there that say, yes, you can use audio for DMX and you can use DMX for audio. Well, let me just stop you there. You can indeed use audio for DMX, but I would not advise using DMX for audio because of the impedance difference. Obviously, there's a different impedance on the cables. So you will get away, yes, with using audio with DMX lights, but, and I say but for a reason. And this reason is, yes, it will work most of the time, but most of the time it also doesn't work. But whenever it does, you risk also getting a lot of reflections and strobing, and also a lot of signal loss on your lighting at a gig. Now, the last thing you want, especially when you're going to be at somebody's wedding and you have lights that are originally supposed to be there to uplight the venue, and next thing then you have a random strobing effect, all the lights just completely go off. It doesn't make you look good, and it also doesn't look good on the actual client you're dealing with. So what about the DMX in a speaker instead of an audio cable? Well, I would not advise this, only because yes, audio may work on a DMX light, but obviously because you're dealing with audio, and audio kills a digital feed, and well, DMX is designed for digital feed or digital data instead of analog. I wouldn't use DMX because you also risk damaging your speakers in the process. So to simplify that even more, yes, XLR audio will work for DMX lighting, but you risk problems further down the line, and this could happen literally 5 minutes into your before your gig starts, or even somewhere into your gig. And if you care about your DJing and you care about your gig and you care about your client, then I would personally use the correct cables, despite the fact, yes, they may cost a lot more. I would use audio cables for audio and DMX for lighting. So let's say now if you run a little bit short for your DMX light and you end up connecting an XLR cable to kind of extend your DMX chain, and then you plug the XLR into your DMX and then the other side of the XLR connection into your lighting fixture. Is this advisable? I would say no. Reason for this is obviously the impedance difference. So you're going to be going from 120 ohm resistance to 45 ohm resistance, and that's going to go straight into your light. You also risk damaging your lights also, hence keep this in mind. Now, if you do run all audio cables for your lighting fixes, it may not happen now, but it will happen somewhere down the line. And if you've paid a lot of money for your lighting, because I know lighting, despite the fact you can buy some amazing lights for a cheap price, if you're a DJ who does professional gigs at weddings and stuff like this, you have got pretty expensive gear, and the last thing you want is your gear just to blow up or stop working on you. It won't blow up, but it will stop working for you for sure. Um, so if you keep on using audio as your DMX, you risk damaging the board inside of the light, and once that's gone, your light is gone. And if you try to claim on your warranty, all of this will probably get checked out by the company who makes the light, and if they find out that the wrong cables were used, then obviously you're going to end up voiding your warranty. So this is another reason why I said, if you really care about your gear and you care about the job, you're passionate about lighting and DJing, I would use audio for audio and DMX strictly for DMX. But if you really are the kind of person who kind of likes to use DMX or one cable for everything, there are actually cables out there on the market which you can use for everything, and those cables are. And these cables are made from AES or EBU wire, which has a impedance of 110 ohms, and this is a digital audio cable, so it will work for your DMX lighting and will also work for your audio. Now, I'm going to leave a link down in the description where you can probably buy these. So if you want to buy those kind of wires, feel free to check out the links down below. This is not a sponsored video, obviously. I don't have a big enough channel for sponsored content yet. You never know, somewhere down the line we might do. So now you guys know the difference between audio and DMX. Audio is a analog frequency, which again, I'm going to leave it here. And then DMX is a digital frequency, which is right up here. And you got to remember, audio is at 45 ohm impedance, and the DMX is 120 ohm resistance. So there is a massive difference. And if you really want to use one cable for everything, then I would advise using those cables which are made from AES or EBU wire. So I hope this video helped you guys. If you guys would like to see more videos like this, feel free to give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. The choice is completely up to you. And also feel free to hit that subscribe button. It costs you guys absolutely nothing. It's free and it helps support the channel. Also feel free to turn notifications on so you guys get notified whenever I am uploading next. Okay guys, take care and I'll see you guys next time.